tape it, and then I'll put it up on the... Okay. So yeah, I grew up in Ohio, and I was a son of a church choir director, and we just heard that story. So I'll just kind of fast forward. At that point, once there was all this dissemination from the church and kind of me pulling away from Christians and me being like anti-Christianity for a long time, and I had a real experience at the age of 8 where I went to the altar and I accepted Christ, and I felt that Holy Spirit presence. It was undeniable, it was real, it was really heavy, and it just, I just knew it was real. I just knew God was real. There was no question in my mind from age 8 on. And at 8, later that year, I decided I wanted to be a pastor, a minister. That was kind of what I wanted to do. Later in life, it changed and ventured off a little bit, but jumping forward to that experience of having the rug kind of pulled out from under me in terms of my belief structure, my faith, I started seeking out different things, reading about all different faiths, all different religions. Read the Satanic Bible because I wanted to know what's wrong with those people, and why are they all evil and going to hell, and those types of things. And
what's the Satanic Bible about, by the way?
It's very mystical in nature. It's a lot like Zoroastrianism, in terms of its, its bond and connection with the mystical forces of nature. But it's manipulative in nature. It's manipulating the elements for your needs and for ego-driven things, and so connecting with nature to get what you want out of it rather than for the greater good of all people.
So it's like paganism.
That's essentially what it is. But it's
so it's not about Satan.
I mean, not in the traditional sense of pitchfork red guy. Yeah. It was really interesting when I was in. I was probably 19, and I went to this. I was in a heavy metal band. I went to this Milwaukee music festival, and there was this guy, King Diamond, there. And I loved his music. I thought it was amazing. I wouldn't listen to it before bed because I always thought if I died in my sleep, I'd probably go to hell for listening to it because it was that. He's like Stephen King. He writes these Stephen King type novels in song format, and he has this really high falsetto voice. So he's like, "Grandma," and but his theatrical stuff, all that just kind of sucked me in. And where was I going with the King Diamond? I hate when that happens.
Satanic stuff?
Yeah, oh yeah. No, I went to Milwaukee Music Festival, and I saw him there. And I walked, and I was probably 19 at the time, so still like, still kind of reading my Bible and clinging to that, but at the same time rebelling against the people and all the circumstance that I went through. And I just walked up to him out in front of this club, and I said, hey, I really like your music, but I like the themes and all this, imagery that you create, and I can definitely get into it as a story, as like a horror novel or whatever. But I mean, do you really believe that stuff? Or are you really you're a professed Satan worshiper. What does that mean? And he says, come have a drink with me and we'll talk about it. So we sat down, and I ordered a Coke and he ordered a beer or something, and he sat there for probably a good hour and explained to me what his belief was. And when I walked away, I felt like, this guy's all right, But I mean, when you see his image and you see everything, it's like, upside down crosses and all that kind of stuff. And that's all for shock value. But I think what he lives is more of that paganistic kind of ideal and that kind of thing. But it was really an eye-opener for me, And I kind of learned at that point not to judge, because I had really judged a lot, And I've been going to seminars as a kid, where they'd have, Iron Maiden album covers and Kiss album covers, and telling you how these are satanic and what they, Kiss means knights in Satan's service, and all they got me into martial arts, and I really got into Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee's philosophy, and just how he was treating his martial art was very much how I was treating my music. I was taking little bits of all these different arts and combining them into whatever was useful, and just using it and applying it to that moment. he was always, you can learn all these rigid moves over and over again, but you know, if the person doesn't throw the punch that you know how to block, he's going to hit you. So, you know, you have to be versatile and know different things and be able to apply whatever you do know to the situation. And I really started applying that philosophy to my songwriting and my music. And it really changed how I viewed creating art and making. So it really changed my mindset about how I approached making art, and I felt kind of a need at that point to, you know, I always, when I was 8, I wanted to be a preacher, and then when I got to maybe 12 or 13, I was like, I'm going to be a musical preacher. You know, I'm going to play music and be a Christian rock band, and I'm going to do this and do that. And, but then it all evolved and changed to where at that point, through this art that I was practicing, I was learning how to take little bits and pieces from all things. So, you know, I could take the love and the compassion of Jesus, of Christ, and I could live that, and I could be an example of that, or try to be more of that, be more of a healing presence. And then I could also be more meditative, be more focused, and more of a peaceful presence like the Buddhist monks would be, or a Taoist practitioner, you know, all these types of things. So I started to see the spiritual and religious interconnectivity through studying all the different things, and I was seeing the thread of truth in them all, and that they were all the same message, but just being spoken through different, you know, voices, or seen through different windows and that kind of thing. And so it really led me to, you know, search more. I moved out here about maybe 12 years ago from Ohio, and probably about a year after I was here, maybe not even a year, I was in a bookstore and I found this book, The Mysticism of Sound and Music, and it just, everything about it changed my life. His image, just when I was looking at it, for being like this small town Ohio boy and walking into this, you know, exotic bookstore with incense and crystal singing bowls and all these things, and I was like, this is kind of new age and honky weird. But man, I found this book and it just changed my life. And the reason is because, I think for me, because it's spoken in musical terms, but he relates all life and everything to sound. All life is sound, because all life began with the word and the vibration of breath and light, and everything vibrates, you know. So that vibration is something that carries through all of us. That's our interconnectivity that people on the outside don't see through skin color, or, you know, belief, or dress, or tattoos, or whatever else. But we all have that same connectivity. So I got really into his work, read it, studied it, and after about a year or two, I found Tasneem Hermila Fernandez, who's an amazing guide and teacher, and she's been my guide for about 10 years now.
She does the Dances of Peace.
Yeah, right? She's a senior guide and teacher of the Dances of Universal Peace. Her and Sadi kind of started the whole program that's currently existing for training other teachers and things like that. She was one of the first teachers to train other teachers. So, yeah, and the Dances of Universal Peace are very interesting, because they're really what the whole Sufi message is about. We spend time in these dances. We'll do maybe, like we just did Moksha Fest last weekend at the downtown, and did the dances there. And it was about an hour and a half. I think we maybe did 5 or 6 dances in that time. And we did, I think, 2 from the Buddhist tradition, 2 songs from the Jewish tradition, 2 from the Christian tradition, and a couple that represented Islam. And it's really interesting, because what it is you bring all these people in from, much like we do here, people from different walks of life, different faiths, different beliefs, different questions, and different things that we're all seeking to find and answer for each other and together. And you get all these people in a room, and they've never done these dances. Most of them have never sung these songs. And then all of a sudden you do this Christian-inspired song, and, oh, I've sang that in church. You know, and so the 2 people that came that are from the Christian tradition, they light up and they feel that excitement, and everybody gets to share in what they feel. And you're not exchanging that for your belief or anything. You're just sharing in that moment with that other person. And then you move on to the Buddhist tradition, and then the Buddhists in the room get to, you know, really feel that fire and ignite that in them and share that with the others. So by the end, it's no longer we're singing Buddhist songs or Christian songs or Jewish songs. We're just singing songs. We're just praising God through music and dance and the movements. You know, there's a lot of partner dances. There's a lot of whirling. There's a lot of, you know, in and out. There's a lot of real transmission of energy. There's a lot of times where you're invoking a divine being and bringing that energy to the other person through the practice, through the movement. And some people get really high on these dances, and it's really an incredible thing. So I've been accompanying Tasneem as her guitar player for 10 years, off and on, and we do those a lot. And a little over a year ago, I started studying to be a healing conductor, and that's a whole nother. There's a Sufi healing order where we focus on the healing work of the order and Hazrat Inayat Khan, who brought this this particular branch of Sufism from the east to the west. And this is very different than traditional Sufism and a lot of the other things that, you know, we had a discussion earlier about zikr, and you know, I haven't really done a lot of zikr practice here because of the reason that we bring a diverse crowd, a lot of different people, and people don't know what it means to chant Allah. When you say La ilaha illallah, a lot of people don't understand the meaning of that. And recently I've come to understand that the words on ISIS's battle flag is La ilaha illallah. I saw that on CNN about 3 months ago, and it just stopped me dead in my tracks from doing the zikr at these events. Now I go to a Sufi group, everybody knows what we're there for. Everybody understands the mystical Islam. They understand that we're not, you know, jihadists, and we're not there to, you know, go, you know, mow down the Walmart or anything like that. They know what we're there for. But with this kind of gathering, I put this on Meetup, Facebook, and so forth. This is, you know, I'm new to being a Sufi teacher, you know, and I still have a lot of cooking to do. So out of respect to that, I don't want to ruin or do that or present it in the wrong way or turn anybody off from that. So what we did last month is I talked a little bit about kind of where I first got into the 5 elements, and I wanted to expand a little bit on another side of that, which is color and tone. And we'll talk about that from a couple of different aspects. We'll talk about it in relation to music and creativity and kind of just viewing things from different, you know, viewing things with color and tone and that kind of thing. But then I'll read some things of Mershid, because there's some really deep healing teaching in his assertion of color and sound. And anybody that does light work, it's light and sound really are the same thing because it's vibration. So we're really speaking about vibration just in a different, you know, from a different angle.
And through Casey said in the future all healing will happen through sound and color.
Yeah. Inayat Khan said that. He said the future future religion of the world will be music. I thought that was really beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful thought. So I'd like to start real quick here just by doing the Sufi invocation of Inayat Khan. If you know it, you can say it. If you don't, you can just listen along. We're just basically opening up the space and really asking for the spirit of guidance and for peace for my little girl. Toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty. The only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance. So a few years back, I wrote a book called Mind Over Metal. And Yeah, last month we talked a little bit about the 5 elements and how I kind of talked about those were, when I first got into martial arts, I started realizing the different energies that the elements represented and how they were used in different aspects of martial arts. We talked about, for instance, like the ninja, when you see, like a ninja's in the water and he's got a little bamboo shoot that he's breathing out of, and he's using that that's an air technique or a water technique, or air and water. It's using those different energies, using the water as concealment, using the peace and the tranquility and the stillness of the water to also imbibe that stillness within the warrior that's ready to attack. So all of those things, it really just opened my thinking to, wow, the elements are really interesting, and they really do have different energies and different things that they create. So I started writing music with the elements in mind, and thinking of, well, air would be something very light, something very, wispy. A fire technique would be like your trick bag, your big Eddie Van Halen solo, things like that. And I started putting, earth energy would be very grounding, your very stable part of your song, your main key, or something like that. And so I started to really develop songs and ideas based on all the different elements. And then when I got into Sufism, there's just the elements are a huge part of our practice. So there's a lot of, last month we did a little bit of the Sufi practice of working with the element breaths, which is essentially, we call it the purification breaths or the element breaths, and there's a couple of different ways to do the practice, but the main practice that we do, and this is something that I do daily, is basically it's just 20 breaths. And you take in 5 breaths in through the nose, out through the nose, and that's the earth energy. So that's a stabilizing earth energy breath in through the nose, out through the nose. Then we do a water breath, which is more flowing, like a downward flow, in through the nose, out through the mouth. We do 5 of those. And then we do the fire breath, which is in through the mouth, out through the nose, which is more of a rising, kind of creating steam kind of. That's the next one. And then the air element is just in through the mouth, out through the mouth 5 times. And when you do those 20 breaths and just those 4 elements, those are purification breaths. And that's essentially kind of like a reset button for a lot of different body functions and mental things. And you really come out of it feeling more grounded and more well established in your being. So that was a practice that we did last month, and then I'm going through a training right now where we're also doing the 5 domains. And the 5 domains is a whole different side of, you can combine them with the elements, and I did a little of that last month. The domains are different aspects, different places of our being. So you have the mental domain. We're all pretty sure what the mental domain means. The mind world and all that. Then we have the physical domain. Actually, I should have started with that. The physical domain, the mental domain, and then we have the domain of the heart, and then we have the domain of the soul, and domain of the spirit. So when you go through and you spend time meditating on each of those domains, you start to see what comes up for that in that area. What do I feel physically right now? And you spend a little time breathing in and out and focusing on that domain. Okay, I've got some of this going on, some of that. I feel really light, but I feel this. And then you go on to the mental domain, and I find for myself, the mental domain brings me right back to the physical domain because I have this little stomach issue. So I get past that and I go, okay, I acknowledge that, I'm moving on from that, and I get to the mental part. Well, yeah, mentally I'm thinking about this stomach thing that I have, and that's what I spend a lot of my attention on. So that's an issue that exists for me in 2 different domains. So I can't just heal it in the physical and not heal that mental domain as well. That's there as well. It has to be dealt with as well. So this is like really taking a microscope and looking at all the different essential parts of your being. And so what I did was and this just intuitively came to me. One morning I was doing the element breath, so I was in through the nose, out through the nose, and I was doing 5 breaths for each, and I was like, well, what if I put one of each breath for each element in one of the domains? So I took a breath in through the nose, out through the nose, bringing earth energy into my physical body, raising the vibration, bringing that magnetism of the earth in through my body, and then giving that magnetism back, connecting with the earth, radiating out that magnetism, and then the very next breath, going into the mind, the mental, bringing in that earth energy into the mind, the stability and the comfort of the earth. And so to me, it's like my mind went to whatever it invoked for me at that, but you could feel something different. It might not be magnetism, it might be something else. But for me, it was a really extremely powerful practice. And it's a little hard to like explain or to do in a group because it's, everybody's got a different breath time, and then you're always, okay, now think about this, and now think about it, But I'll gladly send it to everybody. I have it typed out. It's actually on last month's little scenario on our website. But I've done that practice probably 3 or 4 times now, and I get so high out of my mind when I do that practice that I did it in the woods on a hike the second time, and I got kind of dizzy and almost tripped and fell. It was just that intense. Not that I might have that morning, but yeah. So those are just kind of giving an overview of what we did last month with the elements and kind of how I wanted to approach this month. Now I want to shift a little bit into color, and colors are really, it's something that I would like to work with more. I'm colorblind, so I see color, but purple looks blue, blues look, brown looks red, or it's just so.
Yeah, I'm green, brown, blue,
when
purple.
the traffic light is red?
Oh yeah.
You can tell the difference between red and green.
Oh yeah, I can totally tell the differences in the colors.
Because colorblind people often cannot tell the difference between red and green. And I was wondering, what do they do at traffic lights?
Because
Yeah.
there's also which order they're in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, for me it was, I was in kindergarten or first grade, and we colored something in school, and I colored a cow like purple or something like that. And the teacher's like, why did you do, that's an interesting color for the cow, why did you color it purple? I didn't color it purple, I colored it black. He sent me down, had the test, and my grandfather was colorblind too, so I got it from him.
It's more common among males.
Yeah. So for me, color has never really had much importance. I see things and I'm like, that's a beautiful color. I love this color. I mean, I like color and I associate with it, but it's never been anything that I dive deep into. So when I got into chakras and things like that, the colors, I just kind of threw that out the window, and I'm like, oh, the chakras all correlate with tones. B-A-G-F-E-D-C, back-fed C. All right. So then I was all B-A-G-F-E-D-C. That was all I cared about, and the color part I never really put much thought into. But then when I was getting into writing this, and when I got into elements, the color aspect really came in. And tone, and tone and shade being part of color, that's so a part of musical terminology. So, and I'll give a little brief example of, this is more to do with tone than really shade or color. But when you're trying to produce music and you're trying to relay something to another person, you have this vision or this sound in your mind, and you want to convey it to that person, and you're looking for something. Is it if I shake these breadcrumbs, will that sound like it, so this guy will understand what I'm trying to say, that kind of thing. And we were trying to get this particular sound years ago, guitar sound, and we just wanted this huge, heavy, thick, full guitar sound. And we were so close. We had the low end there, and the high end was there, and the mid-range sounded really good, but just something wasn't quite there. Something was missing. And my buddy looks over at me and he goes, I think I got this figured out. We need a little bit more masking tape in our sound. I'm like, masking tape? What are you talking about? And he goes, no, really, we need more masking tape. Check this out. So he goes over the little supply cabinet and pulls out a big roll of that double wide masking tape, and he peels a big piece off real slow. And it just had this mid-range resonance when you pulled it off, this kind of like, it just sounded like this bubble holding up the sound. It was just something in that tonality of pulling the masking tape off. Within 5 minutes, I went over and changed a few mid-range and low settings and had it. More masking tape. Yes, sweet, we did it. You know? So just understanding tone and shade, you know, and ways of kind of descriptively looking for the answers to what we're looking for in different ways, in different places. You know, I never would have thought a roll of masking tape would have been the key to my guitar tone, but it was. So, okay, so I would go into. All right, so this is from my book. This is really more back in my martial arts, Zen, Taoist days. So I was kind of me being into Sufism was kind of when this part came to. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where this was introduced to me and kind of my interpretation of it, and then we move over to Mershid's words, and you'll see just how much richer and fuller he describes things. So yeah, this is from my chapter, Illuminating the Color of Sound. Music has often been referred to as colorful, which implies that sound embodies a particular visible shade or color. In many ways, this is true, as all color is the reflection of light and shade, and music is the reflection of the light that shines from within the human spirit. In this way, seeing music as colorful is much more than a metaphorical concept of sound, but a realization that the light of the soul reflects through art and is projected into the minds of others, producing the visual concept of its sonic illumination. Can't believe I wrote that. Just as we can recognize the presence of energies and the different qualities they represent in musical form, so can color and texture embody sound in a manner that adds additional experiential elements to the vibrations of sound. Like a great painting or sculpture that speaks to us through the voice of its shade and texture, a melody or song speak to us in the same way. By creating a particular texture of sound and color, the mind is given an enhanced visual connection to the music and is drawn into the emotional experience of the artist who created it. And really a prime example of color and sound is blues music. You know, that came out at a time, you know, it's so appropriately named. These people were telling these stories of the suffering and the blues that they were, you know, feeling blue, you know, and experiencing these blues in their soul. And that music just, you know, had that just dragging on the soul. And just, man, I got to drag my feet through one more of these days and just pull myself through this must one more time, you know. And I got this ball and chain, and she won't leave me alone, and all that stuff. You know, and then, you know, in heavy metal we have black metal, and black metal is, you know, evil and dark, and it's all the, you know, all those elements that are dark and evil. You know, that's what black metal is, and it's really, I say in here that, you know, the word black refers to the evil nature of the music message or the black heart, or as a dark and ominous form of music. It can also be said that black metal is appropriately named due to its lack of light. And I like some, there's a lot of death metal, they call it death metal, and they ponder some philosophical stuff, and they get into some deep spirituality in a lot of that music. There's a band called Death that actually, that guy was 17-year-old Chuck Schuldiner from Florida, started a band called Death, and the name was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but some of his lyrics were some of the most spiritual stuff that I'd listened to at that time of my life, you know. Since passed away from cancer.
Plants don't like it.
No. Sharks do, apparently. Shark Week, they said.
They played heavy metal for
Played
sharks.
Heavy metal for sharks, and they all came.
And they could tell the sharks liked it.
Yeah, dude. Give me some fish.
What do you call it? The hammer metalhead shark?
Yeah, exactly. Headbanger head shark. Also, I'll mention that this is, I'll go into a little bit of the color now of sound. I'm doing an update actually of this book, and I came to discover Alexander Scriabin. Have you ever You ever heard Scriabin? He was a piano player, I believe, but a classical composer, and he developed this whole style of music and whole style of writing based on color. So all of his music is written from color, and he has this whole philosophy and correlation of color and sound, and really took it to just an amazing, incredible level. And his music is very mystical. It's not really listenable in terms of like if you're sitting back and trying to just groove on a tune. It's not that, but it if you sit and meditate with it, it can take you somewhere. It's pretty interesting. So my point in mentioning him was the earlier origins of the circle of fifths. If you've seen that image of the circle of fifths in music, tells you where all the sharps and flats and so forth are.
Is that the same thing as Fibonacci?
It's not, but I mean there's some of the same alchemy intertwined, but it's real different. But the circle of fifths is it's basically a chart or diagram that's used to show where all the sharps and flats are in each key. And the earliest versions of the circle of fifths have color in the description. So that's where Scriabin got this whole, he went back and found ancient text and,
vibration. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
So when we get into the colors of the chakras, and these could vary, bag-fed, sorry.
I did Father Charles goes down and enters battle.
Yeah, there you go.
Battle enters and
For
down
the
falls
chakras?
Charles's father.
For the chakras you're talking?
No, for sharps and flats.
Oh.
Yeah, this is for the chakras. Yeah, so
Okay.
so B is your crown chakra, A is the third eye, G is the throat, F is the heart chakra, E is the solar plexus, D is the sacral, and C is the base. So the colors that coordinate with all of those. For the crown chakra, that would resonate at the note B, and the color would be violet. For the third eye, again, the note's A, and the color would be indigo. For the throat, G is blue. And interestingly enough, I actually have a blue iPhone, and I chose it because I thought when I'm talking on the phone, I'm using my throat, I'm using the throat chakra, and why not? Better than pink.
Maybe people can hear you better, right?
Yeah, something like that. Well, I was having some throat issues about a year ago, and I went to a doctor, a throat specialist, and did a scope and everything, and she said all you did was you strained a muscle or something in here, and you just need to kind of work that out. But that was the time I got the new phone. I said, I'm going to get the blue. The heart, again, the note is F, and the color green. For the solar plexus, the note's E, and the color yellow. And for the sacral, again, the note would be D, and the color would be orange. And then for the base chakra, again, the note is C, and the color red.
So that's the spectrum. It's Roy-G. Biff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting how they really correlate with the sound too. And there's been times that I've meditated and seen color, and then there's been times I've meditated with sound and seen color, and the sound color coordinate. And so it's really interesting to see that connection. So the vibrations of sound that affect each energy center also quicken the speed of each mental and emotional vibration to invoke its color equivalent, infusing it with the additional vibration of light and shade. So this was really my understanding of color, and the next is the masking tape story. But yeah, understanding, for me now, like color was always a visual thing, and because I was colorblind, I never really had much interest in color in that sense. But when I'm looking at things from an esoteric or metaphysical perspective, I see the color importance, and when you think of a prism, and you think of, that pure white light that comes into the prism, and then it's refracted out into all these multicolors and all these different shades. And really, I just think that's such a beautiful analogy, because all those colors combined, they go to the one direct source of light, that one, white light that they come from. So that, again, that was my understanding of color and sound to that point. And when I got into the mysticism of music and sound, Murshid has a whole chapter, part 2, chapter 11, the spiritual significance of sound and color. And there's also there's 2 chapters in volume 2 about color, but this one in particular had some really great stuff. And I'm going to pass this around really quick too. I think this is really interesting. I do a lot of recording, so I do some production work and engineering and stuff like that. And I've been really trying to get my skills up and things like that. And trying to understand frequency more and things like that, and trying to place things in the mix and so forth better. I came across this really cool frequency chart that shows you kind of what instruments fall within what frequency range and things like that. So you know that, okay, if you've got a timpani, you want to it's going to fit into this space over here. If you're going to put this, it's going to fit into this space. So you can kind of stack your instruments in the right frequency space when you're mixing. And it didn't really dawn on me until I used this quite a bit, and it didn't really dawn on me until I started working on this material for this class, or this gathering, and it's all color coded, almost in the same color, almost identical. And this is just sound engineering guys using frequency and color to represent sound, and I thought that was really interesting.
Awesome.
So I'll pass that around if anybody wants to look at it. It's kind of interesting stuff. Okay, so moving on to Murshid's, and when I say Murshid is it's a veneration. It means teacher. So when I speak of Hazrat Inayat Khan, rather than say Hazrat Inayat Khan every time, we say Murshid. It's just a respected veneration towards a teacher. So this, again, from the spiritual significance of sound and color. It seems that what science realizes in the end, mysticism realizes from the beginning. According to the saying of Christ, first seek ye the kingdom of God, and all will be added. When one hears of the present discoveries about sound and color from the scientific point of view, one begins by being surprised. One says, "What? A new discovery? Something we have never heard of?" It is something quite new, and yet when you open the Bible, there it says, "First was the Word, and the Word was God." And if you open still the older scriptures of the Vedanta, you read in the verses that the Creator there was the Word, or the vibration. And when you come to the Quran, we read there, "First there was the Word be, and then it became." The religions of the world, the prophets and mystics who existed thousands of years ago, knew of these things. Today a man comes with a photographic plate and says, "Here I have a photograph of sound. This shows how important is vibration and its action upon the plate." And what he's talking about here is cymatics. And this was probably written in the 1920. But when he's talking about the plate, he's talking about cymatics, which I actually have one of these. In one of these classes I'll demonstrate this. But you take a plate, and you can either take a violin bow along the side of it, or you can hook a speaker or some sort of electronic frequency device to it, and you run certain frequencies through it, and it will make geometrical patterns. You'll see the tree of life will show up, all these different types of patterns will show up on this plate. So that's what he's saying here, is that now, at that time, that was just being discovered, that you could take a plate and actually visualize the sound. Today a man comes with a photographic plate and says, "Here I have a photograph of sound. This shows how important is vibration and its action upon the plate." He does not realize that there is something which has always been known, only it has been spoken of in spiritual terms. What has been spoken, man does not think about. What is being spoken, he thinks is something new. But when he realized, as Solomon did, that there is nothing new under the sun, we begin to enjoy life, seeing how time after time the same wisdom is revealed to man. the one who seeks truth through science, the one who searches for it through religion, the one who finds it through philosophy, the one who finds it through mysticism. In whatever manner they seek truth, they find it in the end. When one looks into the past and the present and the future, one sees that life is eternal. And what one can discover is that which has always been discovered by those who seek philosophy or science, mysticism or esotericism, will all agree at one point if they touch the summit of their knowledge. And that point is that beyond the whole of creation, beyond the whole of manifestation. If there is any subtle trace of life that can be found, it is motion, it is movement, it is vibration. Now the motion has two aspects, and this is because we have developed in two principal faculties, sight and hearing. And this is where we get into sound and color and light, sound and hearing, and kind of both aspects. One aspect appeals to healing, the other to sight. The aspect of movement or vibration which appeals to our hearing is that which we call audible or sound. The aspect which appeals to our sight we call light or color. We call it visible. In point of fact, what is the origin of all that is visible, all that is audible? It is motion, it is movement, it is vibration. It is one and the same. Therefore, those who can see and trace color even in that which is audible and which is called sound. And to those who can hear even the sound of color is audible. So this really kind of speaks to a lot of different aspects, but in Sufism we really try to see what's hidden behind the real. So if something's real, we want to know what makes it real. What gives it, and that's what shade and color really do, and tone. They really, those are the things that bring the picture into clarity, so we can actually see it and know what we're looking at. If there's anything that unites these two things, yes, there is. And what is it? It is harmony. It is not a particular color which is in itself harmonious or which lacks harmony. It is the blending of that color. It is in what frame it is in what frame it is placed. How the color is arranged in accordance with that has the effect upon the one who sees it. And so it is with sound. There is not any sound which is harmonious or inharmonious in itself. It is the relation of one sound to another sound that creates harmony. Therefore, one cannot point out that this or that certain thing is harmony. Harmony is a fact. Harmony is the result of the relation between color and color, the relation between sound, and the relation between color and sound. The most interesting aspect of this knowledge is how different colors appeal to different people, and how different people enjoy different sounds. The more one studies this, the more one finds its relation with the particular advancement of a man's evolution. For instance, one will find that at a certain stage of one's evolution, one loved a certain color, and then one lost contact with that color. With one's growth and evolution in life, one begins to like some other color. It also demands upon a person's condition whether he is emotional, passionate, romantic, warm, or cold, whether sympathetic or disagreeable. Whatever be his emotional condition, in accordance with that, has his likes or dislikes in colors. It is that which makes it easy for the seer, for the knower, to read the character of man even before having seen his face, by only seeing his clothes. His preference for a certain color expresses what the person is like, and what is his liking. His liking for a certain flower, his liking for a certain gem or jewel, his liking for a certain environment in his room, and color. How much does that sentence play true for you in terms of when you see a person and you see the outside exterior? And I'm not saying that anybody sees somebody and makes a judgment, and I'm not talking about prejudgment or anything from image, but he's saying here, just from what the person's wearing, just from the colors that they surround themselves or imbibe themselves with, gives you a sense of what that person's soul is like before. And I can see that on a lot of levels. Not in all ways. People might see me today dressed in all black and go, oh, he's gothic, he's into this or that. It just happened to be clean, and I wanted to wear this shirt, and I wanted to wear something that matched the shirt. So you can't always go that route. But I'm curious, does color play into your initial perception of a person's need or something?
I go by energy.
So am I.
Because I can feel your energy or your vibration instantly.
I do notice
So
colors. I'm sorry. go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just that before the even initial, because we're human beings, we do that, we prejudge, and judging can be just based on a past experience. It doesn't mean judging is not bad. It just means that you're standing in judgment of something.
Yeah.
Just based on whatever. So just personally for me, it's usually the energy hits me first. And that's it.
That's how I am too. Now I notice people what they do wear, the colors.
Yeah,
I don't-
it's after though.
Yeah, it's not until after. Like
Yeah.
right now, since you mentioned it,
Yeah.
I'm noticing the colors.
Right.
I mean, I don't look at, but it's the energy that I'm drawing.
I know for me, like, I was black concert T-shirts and black, camel pants or whatever for years. That was just my look. And now I'm trying to do more like earthy colors, more greens, more stuff that really highlights my love of nature and things like that. So I know that I'm more aware and more conscious of kind of what I put on and what it might look like when I go, especially like at Moksha Fest or if I go to my Sufi group or something like that. I'm not going to wear a Carcass T-shirt or something like that. It just, to me, it's just a vibration I don't want to bring to that space. But for me to wear it to work or something like that is fine. So I noticed those types of things. I just was curious.
Yeah, I think personally you go with, for me, I just go with what resonates with me to put on for the day.
I agree.
And then usually it'll make sense later on.
Yeah.
Why I pulled that color, or why.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just go with, just kind of just let it flow. Don't put too much thought into it, and then it plays itself out. You'll go, oh, okay, that's why. That's why I chose that color. Not always, but
Very nice. Thank
I'm
you.
going to ask the divine, please help me choose for me what would be the best thing to wear.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I don't particularly wear black and gold, but I felt like wearing black and gold, and I noticed you're wearing black and gold. So I wanted to vibe with you.
Yeah.
Like on some level of my being.
Very sure.
Yeah. So, but I think it's nice when you can ask the divine for everything. And I swear, there are times where I have not known why I've chosen something to wear, and it's actually the perfect thing. Like for whatever reason, whether the weather changed or it was the right vibe or was matching my teacher, or whatever it is, it's very interesting.
Your mood.
it's
Or a good friend or whatever.
Ends up
And
being
we're wearing like
universal.
some kind of complimentary thing.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
I did that recently. I chose a blue shirt when I was getting dressed to go for an astrological reading, my chart. And when I walked up, I already knew I had been there. Whether I soul traveled there ahead of time, I knew when I was walking and I went through the door, I had already been there. So at that moment, I thought, okay, this is good. So once I went into the reader, he had the same color on as the shirt. So I was like, oh, that's like a moment. So it's awesome when it happens like that.
There's a zodiac color day. Like sun day is yellow.
Oh yeah.
Monday, moon day is white.
Right.
Tuesday is Mars Day, which is red. Mercury Day or Wednesday is light blue or gray. Jupiter Day is Thursday, which is dark blue. Venus Day, which is Friday, is pink. And Saturn Day, Saturday, is dark purple or black.
That's interesting.
I tried that. I did try it, and I wore I kept the crystal over the color of the day.
And also, it's like we create preconceived ideas. Like you're saying, like black in our culture often represents, like the
Dark
macabre
or-
dog,
right, yeah.
or like or now goth, right? That's
Yep.
actually
Oh,
goth.
that guy's shut off from the rest of the world. He's in his own head. He's,
Right. But I noticed that the sheikh that I study with that wears a lot of black, and I always wondered, like, these people have so much light. Why do they want to wear all black? Also, and so one use of black was that it actually represents death to the world. Like it's like dying to the materialism and awakening the spirit. So the black is kind of like funerals.
Death before dying, we call it.
Exactly.
Die before you die.
Dying before you die. So black in that sense is very sacred. It's a very sacred color. So it's all relative to the I guess the situation or
the wearer or the individual.
the person, the individual.
Yeah, Murshid used to wear long black robes all the time, and he'd be this when in 1920, I think it was, or 1910, it was when he first came from India. So you can imagine in 1910, these 5 or 6 Indian guys come, the royal musicians of Hindustan, show up in New York and they play this concert hall and people are just like, never heard Indian music ever. He was the first person to bring Indian music to the West. And so they're in there, listening to this, and then, he would walk through town with these robes and just, this regal presence, and people would just, who is this man, and it's just, I think that had a lot to do with why he brought in so many people to the message at the time, and, he hung out with the Henry Fords and people of that era that wanted to know more spiritual stuff and things like that. And
Henry Ford wanted to know.
That's amazing.
He hung out with Inayat Khan.
Because he was really anti-Semitic
And also anti-black.
and horrible.
Yeah, I don't think he caught on to too much. He
He
was interested.
He was just curious.
about how evil Jews are.
But if you look at all those successful people, like if you read Think and Grow Rich, right? They all were being studied by Napoleon Hill, right? So they all actually did. I think they actually all had some kind of occult knowledge or knowledge of the law of attraction and stuff like that. They all said
That's why
Including Hitler.
which makes sense why they'd be attracted to spiritual.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hitler
And
was
they
into
did study
astrology.
the law of attraction because that's how they became so wealthy and they saw themselves.
That's true. Trump is. Did you know Trump was born into
I just
science
mentioned
of
Trump.
mind?
Yes.
Yeah.
To answer your question, partly there are spiritual readers who do see color.
Yeah.
And
Who use it to their
or use it,
advantage.
like we always tell people to bring in the white light and always bring in white light to clear you and to keep you calm. I use purple and pinks to protect myself, and I didn't realize until someone told me that who was going to read me, you have a lot of purple around you, what's going on? And I said, I'm protecting myself from you, because I don't know who you are. So there are people who do see that. We just met someone who saw auras, Daniel. He saw auras and he saw colors.
See, that was my kind of first experience. Was when Carrie and I first met, actually, we went up to Topanga on Thanksgiving to feed some homeless people up there. My friend did that, and I went up there to help him each year. So we had met and went up there, and this woman, Native American woman, she was homeless, but they're living in a van or something up there. But just the hardness that you could see on her, the years of just hard living. But she had a glow to her, a real glow. And she came up to me and she just gave me this look and just this gaze, and she goes, I can see your aura. And I said, yeah. I said, what's it tell you? And she says, it's purple. She goes, healing. And I was like, wow. Because I was just starting to really get into this healing stuff, and whoa, this is kind of trippy, And so, I try really hard, and there are times that, like, I can see like a light's aura or the moon's aura or something that's illuminating already. I can see the aura and I can detach and recognize that it's not just, that's the aura. But yeah, it's a challenge sometimes, and with people and things like that. It's not a gift that I was given. So I'm always inspired by that one. Yet. Now there's a lot of things opening up that I'm ready for. Okay, so kind of moving a little bit, there's just a few more little passages I want to read here, and then I wanted to go into a healing and sound meditation practice, chanting. It is the same with sound. Every person, whether he knows it or not, has a predilection for a certain sound. Although most people do not study this subject, or therefore man usually remains ignorant of the idea, yet every person has a special liking for a certain sound. This explains the saying or belief that each person has his note. The fact is that, I will change that, his or her note. The fact is that each person that has his sound, or her sound, a sound which is akin to his particular evolution, besides all the divisions that have been made, such as tenor, bass, or baritone, each person has his particular pitch, and each person has his special note on which he speaks, and that particular note is expressive of his life's evolution, expressive of his soul and the conditions of his feelings and thoughts. It not only has an effect upon people to hear certain sounds and to see certain colors, but it also has an effect upon animals. Colors have a great effect and influence upon all living creatures, animals or birds or human beings. Without their knowing, it has influence of colors work on their lives, turning them into this or that inclination. Once I was visiting a house which has been taken by a certain club, and one of the members told me, "It's a very great pity, since we have taken this house, there is always disagreement in our committee." I said, "No wonder, I see it," they asked. "Why?" "The walls are red. They make you inclined to fight." A striking color from all around gives you the inclination to disagree. The emotions are touched by it, and certainly those inclined to disagreement are helped by it. And it is from this psychological point of view that one finds in the East the ancient custom, especially at weddings, of a certain color being chosen for the time of the wedding, and certain colors for other times and festivities. It also has a meaning. It has a psychological significance at the back of it. Since both color and sound are perceived differently, we have different senses to perceive them. We have made a distinction between visible and audible things. But in reality, those who meditate, who concentrate, who enter within themselves, those who trace the origin of life, begin to see that behind the outer five senses there is one sense hidden. And this sense is capable of doing everything which we seem to do or to experience. We distinguish five external senses. There are five which we know as the five organs of sense, but in reality there is only one sense. It is that sense which through five different organs experiences life and distinguishes life in five different forms. And so all this is audible and all that is visible is one and the same. It is that which is called in Sanskrit Purusha or Prakriti, and the Sufi terms Zat or Sifat. The manifested aspect is called Sifat, the outer appearance. It is in the manifestation as Sifat that one sees the distinction or the difference between what is visible and what is audible. In their real aspect of being, they are one and the same. According to Sufi mystics, the plane of existence where they are one and the same is called Zat, that knowledge of the inner existence in which one sees the goal and the goal of all things. So Zat is a really powerful word in Sufism. It's something that we really try to, it's a state, that we try to reach to. It's a place of knowing our real natural existence. It's knowing that we are one, and that we are God manifest through this body in this form. And that's what we really try to reach with our practice. Just a couple more parts that I'm going to read here because it really leads into our practice well. Color and sound are a language which can be understood not only in the external life but also in the inner life. For the physician and the chemist, color has great significance. The deeper one goes into the science of medicine and of chemistry, the more one recognizes the value of color. and that each element in the development or change of each object is distinguishable by the changing of color. The physicians of old used to recognize diseases by the color of the face and the body. Even today there are physicians whose principal way of recognizing a man's complaint is from the color in his eyes, of the tongue, the nails, and the skin. In every condition it is color that is expressive of man's condition. Also in objects, the condition and the change of the object is recognized by the change of color. The psychologists have recognized the condition of objects by their sound, and of people by their voice. What kind of person a man is, whether strong or weak, what his character is, what his inclinations are, what his attitudes are towards life, can all be understood through his voice. I find that really interesting because, for a couple different reasons, you know, if you go to a Chinese medicine doctor, they'll look at your tongue. Or an herbalist, they'll look at your tongue and they'll see discoloration in your tongue, and that's how they know a particular organ or body is out. So again, that's looking beyond, you know, the issue. I studied this a few years ago, and I didn't really keep up with it. But I went to a lady. I just called her the eye lady. But have you ever heard of iridology, where they read your eye?
Right.
And it's really fascinating. And some people think it's quacky. Some people believe in it. I've done it. I've done it myself and read somebody's eye, and they were like, "Wow, that's pretty accurate." And so it's really interesting to see. But it's you read the different changes and subtleties in the eye. There might be different marks around the outside. Sometimes you'll see your eye has a particular color, but then it has like a real dark ring around the outside or an outer ring. Sometimes you'll see little dark spots. I want to learn this, but I'm colorblind.
And,
Is it Nanette?
It's, I don't know.
Is it at Health Plus on
no, Accent on Health?
Accent on Health?
Yes.
That's my
Did
lady.
you know her?
Yeah, Nanette.
I went to her.
She's the
And
eye
last
reader
time
lady.
She did it. She did my son and I, and she was very accurate. She's very intuitive though. Too.
Yeah, she is.
I can tell when she's.
She's probably what, 70
Yeah.
something, and just like spunky. And like one day she comes in, her hair's all dyed, and she's just like, eh.
Yeah.
And she just.
But she's accurate with what she was seeing, but she was also. She's very. I don't know what Claire she is, audio voice, but she. You know, it went beyond just her.
Yeah. Beyond what was in that little eyeglass, yeah.
Yeah. It's very accurate. I'm actually taking some stuff that she suggested.
Yeah, I got into that Nature's Sunshine brand
Yes.
and all that stuff
They're
because
good
of her,
products.
and yeah, that's what got me. I started selling vitamins on my website because I became a Nature's Sunshine
Oh,
dealer
really?
through her, and that got me whole started. Then I started, I could sell singing bowls, and then I could sell
Yeah.
incense, and now I've got a nice little side business going. Yeah, so.
I didn't know you could sell those or become a distributor.
Yeah.
Really? And you get a discount,
Mhm.
obviously.
I do a sunset prayer. I know that I do the Salat prayer. I just wondering if there's a space I could pray really quick.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or maybe we could join you.
I don't want to interrupt the flow, honestly. I just want to pray really quick. I just do it. I do the 5 daily prayers.
Absolutely.
So just have like a little window I'm supposed to do it in. So
Absolutely. You could do. You could go in the other room, or if you want to go out in the backyard in nature.
it's a
you're
little bit
welcome
wet
to
right
that.
now. I totally like praying outside, but
Yes.
it's a little bit wet.
No problem. There we go. So I wanted to read, there was one more that kind of got into a bit more about our, yes, here we go. So this one explains a little bit about wazifa. And wazifa is the sound practice that we do in the soothing healing order, and we're going to do a little of that tonight.
Yeah.
One might ask, how can one get closer to it? The way that one has been found by those who searched after truth, those who sought after God, those who wish to analyze themselves, those who wish to sympathize with life, is one single way. And that is the way of vibrations. It is the same way of old. By the help of sound, they have prepared themselves, they have made these physical atoms, which had gradually become deadened, live again by the help of sound. They have worked with the power of sound. As Zebanisa says, say continually that sacred name which will make thee sacred. The Hindus have called it mantra, yoga. The Sufis have termed it wazifa. It is the power of word which works upon each atom of the body, making it sonorous, making it a medium of communication between the external life and the inner life. And this really is, it is a transformative process. When we do sacred phrases and we recite certain phrases, whether we do it in the English version or we do it in the Arabic version, the Arabic definitely holds more power. There's a vibration within the word and within those the syllables that bring out something of that inner plane. So wazifa is basically recitation of names, of the 99 names of God. And we do them in a lot of different combinations. We do them in a lot of different orders. And so I'd like to do a little wazifa practice and lead it in with a real sound healing practice that we do. And with this one, we could do, there's different phrases that we're going to chant. And when I say phrases, it's just like an ah or ooh, not really long phrases that anybody has to learn. But when we chant these, we could chant them on a particular note from our own knowledge and understanding of, these, places, these stations that we're going to be focusing on have a note. That's not really part of the practice as it's given. That's just my own knowing that and our own sharing that knowledge. We could add that to it. So that's definitely something that can be done. But what really is done in this practice, and we can do this here together, or we'll do this together, but something you can add to this individually at home. People ask me all the time, and I wanted to know this for years, how do you find your own note? And it's going to change. It could be different from time to time. But one way of finding your own note is really focusing in the heart center and chanting ah. And the ah, Wayne Dyer does a really great ah meditation. And there's a lot of manifesting that he's done in his work through the years over this ah meditation. And he actually received the meditation from a Hindu yogi master, Dr. Pillai, who a really incredible man. He teaches a lot of really great stuff too. But the ah, you focus on the heart center and you focus on the ah. And as you chant the ah, you can just move the note up and move the note down. And just kind of ah. See, I know when I get right out, it's ah. I start to feel this extra vibration in my chest. And I feel like, okay, now I'm really resonating with what note kind of correlates with my heart at this point. And it changes. Sometimes it's different. And one day it might be different, the next day it might be different. A lot of times it'll be the same over time. C was kind of my note for a long time. C is the root, and I needed to get in touch with, grounding my root, things like that. It's also a note that's associated after the crown. After you get to the B, then you go to this next C, so you have this kind of beyond the beyond kind of. So C resonated with me a lot. It was kind of pulling in all the forces of all that. And then I got into this G sharp tuning because of a band I was in. And there were certain things within there that really. So one way of finding your own note is chanting that ah on the heart and just moving it up and down to where you feel that you resonate. And chanting doesn't have to be a big thing. And a lot of people want to chant, but they don't know what to chant or how to chant. It doesn't have to be a mantra. You can chant Om, you can chant a lot of different things, but even just Ah, has a power. And I'm just going to give you a real brief scenario on this practice, and then we'll go right into it. This is called healing with sound. All the tragedy in the world, in the individual and in the multitude, comes from lack of harmony. And harmony is best given by producing harmony in one's own life. We become harmonious by becoming balanced and establishing a rhythm in our daily lives. The whole of life is as music, and in order to study life, we must study it as music. It is not only study, it is also practice which makes man perfect. If someone tells me that a certain person is miserable or wretched or distressed, my answer will be that he is out of tune. Murshid uses the language of music to describe illness. He teaches that all life is vibration, and that it is vibration that manifests first as breath, then becomes audible as sound, and then manifests as light. When we do practices and we use sound as a means of healing, we are changing the vibration of the person. We are bringing them into vibration of health from one of illness. We are creating a new balance and rhythm to create a new harmony. Healing with sound goes back for millennia, and Pythagoras is credited with being the father of sound healing. He discovered a balance in music which comes to us in the perfect fifth, as in the notes C and G. If we translate the notes into elements, C is earth and G is ether. So when we change the vibration of a person, we are aiming towards bringing them into a balance of the perfect fifth, the balance of earth and heaven, in harmony within themselves and the world, in tune with the symphony of the spheres. Modern science is catching up to the mystics, and we now know that sound permeates the brain and changes patterns. It also changes the patterns of the body, as body and mind are one. When we do practices for healing, we activate the chakras and the lataif. Lataif are like the chakras. There are power centers, but they don't go up and down the spine. They're all around the heart. So they're different stations within the heart center. The lataif. When we do practices for healing, we activate the chakras and the lataif, and that opens us up to vibrating in rhythm with the universe, a natural state of health. We place the ah in the heart, the oo in the throat, the I or high pitched E. It's almost like a E in the third eye, and the M in the crown, and the E in the solar plexus. Vowels have been used for thousands of years to activate subtle centers for healing and transformation. And if you study anything about like the Jewish tradition and Jewish mysticism, even Yahweh, okay, so this is the practice. We start with becoming present to our 5 bodies, which are the domains that I spoke about before. The physical, here they say the physical, the emotional, the mental, the moral, and the spiritual. So how I usually say it is the physical, the body, the mind, the heart, the soul, and the spirit. It's a little easier and a little bit more well-rounded. So if we start becoming present to those 5 bodies and the spirit, and then become present in our hearts when we are ready to begin. Watch your breath and find the place where your breath turns to sound and express the sound. Breathe it audible inside of you. So for the first part of this practice, what we want to kind of do is kind of be present to those different domains, those 5 spaces within ourselves. We just take a few minutes and breathe and kind of feel and kind of just take a searchlight and scan each of those areas and see if anything comes up. And then when you feel that you've scanned all those areas, rest in the heart. And rest in the heart for a few moments, and we'll take a few minutes and let everybody kind of get into that space, and then we'll start with the ah in the heart, and I'll go through and tell us what we're going to say for each one. And you can do any note, any tone that feels natural. You don't have to match the tone that I come out with. That's another reason why I'm not doing it with a sound, is because I want you to just feel whatever vibrates with you. just take a few deep breaths and go through those 5 domains. I'll briefly walk through each of them as we sit. Spending a few moments in the physical domain. Shift your attention to the mental domain, or the world of the mind. Shift your attention to the heart, not the physical heart, but the spiritual heart, the heart center, located in the center of your chest. Shifting the attention to the soul, and the soul, seeing it as the amplification, your personal amplification of the divine coming through you. Shift your attention to the spirit, the divine spirit that lives and dwells within you. Shift your attention back to the heart. When you're ready, I'm going to sound the chime. Just chant Ah, focusing your attention on the heart, feeling that vibration, whatever pitch feels normal to you. Ah. focusing attention to the third eye center between your eyes. This time we're going to focus on the and you can focus on the sound, or again, you can take all those things that came up in the domains and you can shift those things into the third eye and focus on that resonance, bringing out your intuitive faculties to shine a light on what to do for those items or those things that you bring to that domain or that space. But again, focusing on the third eye. This is going to be ooh, much like who or food. Shifting our attention to the crown center, the top of the head. Really allowing that to open. Holding the sound M, that sound like M or hum. So again, in the crown center, we're going to hold the time. This time really vibrate the lips and amplify that shifting the attention to the solar plexus, the gut area. And here we want to focus on the sound E. And this is a very powerful practice in that solar plexus, as it really breaks up a lot of that stuff that we hold in our gut. Just vibrating on the solar plexus, word or tone. For a few moments on the F note, which correlates to the heart chakra. Just resting in that practice. Closing that practice, I'm going to do just a little bit of wazifa practice, which again is working with the sacred names of God. We're going to do two different variations. We're going to start with just speaking, and then we're going to sing on a note, the same two words. We want to try to visualize and really see what we feel vibrationally different between speaking the names and singing the names. The names that we're going to do is Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. Ya Shafi is the healer, so we're saying Ya is like saying O healer. It's like a calling to that healing power of God. And Kafi is the sustainer. So we're asking for that healing blessing, that healing presence to come through us, to vibrate and resonate with the healing power of the divine. And then in Kafi, we're asking for that sustainment of that blessing of healing, the sustainment of health, well-being, peace, joy, love, harmony, beauty. 11 times. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. 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 Then we're going to do 11 times. We're going to do it on that F note. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. Everybody has it. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. 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 3 more times. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. Now just be real still and rest in that vibration. Really feel the vibrations spread across your body. You can send that vibration out to others. Hold it in the space for the healing of the world, of the planet. So what we've done through this practice is really infused those vibrations into the body, really integrated those into those different areas. Really by with meditation as a whole, it's really about the intention and the concentration. You know, where we focus our intention and what intention we bring to it is how effective the meditation really is. And so what we've just done here is really we've really retuned ourselves. We've done a little mini tuning. This isn't like a big full-on symphony tuning or anything, but by focusing the attention on those different areas, those different regions of our body, our being, and using those tones, and those tones, the vowels, it's really no wonder that the vowel system that we have is our vowel system, because it really is ancient sound healing. The vowels have such a sound healing presence. So intonating those vowels in those different areas really ignites that energy. And I noticed a couple different things that I'll share, and then I'd love for everybody else to share things that you experienced during that. I noticed that when we got to the crown chakra, and we all did the M sound, that there was a variance. We'd all kind of followed the note of the singing bowl or whatever pitch I was at. Everybody kind of resonated in that for the first two. And then we got to the crown chakra, and I noticed a lot of variance. And it wasn't cacophonous, it was still very harmonious in a lot of ways. Everything kind of mixed together, even though, and some people were finding that space, and it shifted and it moved, and then we all kind of just ended in the same place. I thought that was really interesting that it didn't happen until we got to that crown chakra and the M sound. And I noticed a little bit of that when we got to the E. And I noticed for me, because I have some gut stuff going on, that when I vibrate that E in the solar plexus, I really feel that. And I really felt it a lot in the M too, because you feel the vibration in the lips. That's why I said ramp it up and then really get the vibration in the M in the lips. So that was one thing I noticed there. And then I feel in speaking and singing, I think it could take you to two different states, even though it's really kind of the same thing it's trying to take you into. So I'm curious if anybody has anything to share, or any thoughts. Again, this was a very mini.
My heart chakra was vibrating. I felt the outline vibrating, and I've never felt that before.
Was that through the whole meditation, or was it more?
We were on the heart.
On the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awesome. I was like, oh, I just want to stay here.
Yeah.
Don't stop, don't stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I hope we go on forever, because it was awesome. Yeah, I've never felt. Went to sound baths. I've been to healing or whatever, all types of various things, but I've never felt my heart chakra just vibrate like that.
Yeah. And see, that's really the power of chanting, is because we're bringing that vibration out. It's in us already. We're physically bringing it into presence, and I think that's the difference between toning a note yourself or not, or just hearing it.
Yeah.
You can definitely be influenced by the sound around you, but when you sound it out from within, it's transformative.
Go back to that spot.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, you can go right back to that spot.
Yeah, if you ever need to return to the heart, you can just chant ah and focus, and it just, yeah, like I said, Wayne Dyer, if you look up he has a whole ah meditation practice that he does, retreats and everything he's been doing for 20 years or better. And that's his whole thing about manifestation, is what you want to manifest, you hold it in the heart and you chant ah, and it just sends that vibration, increases it tenfold. So, what about singing versus speaking? What was, like, when you say Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi?
I think it reminds me of prose versus poetry.
Yeah.
They're both valuable, and they're great teachers. But of course, the resonance of singing, it just seems to penetrate your cells on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful to have that So it's great to remember Allah or God or divine presence in a song, you know, of devotion.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Absolutely.
for that.
You're welcome.
And I think that chanting, well, for me, versus singing, singing was more on a personal chakra level, personal healing. And when we were chanting, it was like we were a tribe.
Yeah.
So I felt that tribal unity. So that was the difference for me.
You know, and in the zikr practice that we do, and zikr is really the real Sufi practice. And zikr, it's a spoken practice, it can be a silent practice, it can be a practice with movement. There's a lot of different ways to do it. The main zikr practice that we do in our Sufi order, we chant the phrase La ilaha illallah, which is there is no God but God. And we say that with a particular head movement. So it's a rotation across the left shoulder, kind of down around to the right shoulder, then up and then down. And as you go down, it's La ilaha illallah. And so when you do the illallah, it's almost like you're scooping up this divine love, and you're scooping it up from around the heart, carrying it around the heart, and then you're bringing it. You're looking up, recognizing the divine, acknowledging the divine, and then you just bring that divine light like an arrow right down to the heart, just like an arrow of divine light piercing down to the heart. So that's really kind of the practice. La ilaha illallah. And then we end on.
Could we do it
Sure. Everybody's open to it.
a long time?
And we promise we won't be ISIS.
No problem. Yeah.
We won't be ISIS.
No, I say that because I was watching CNN a month or two ago, and they were talking about ISIS, and their battle flag says La ilaha illallah. You know, that's Inayat Khan brought that over in 1910. That was his zikr, you know, and it couldn't be used any farther from the message, the way that they're using it
To
now.
me, that mantra, what it means is everything else is illusion. There's only God, and everything else is just a bunch of illusion and
Amen.
stuff your mind
Yep.
keeps.
There's no God but God. There's nothing but
Nothing
the
is
one
real
reality.
except God.
Yeah, there's nothing real
The
but the
one-
one reality.
And the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite, there's many translations, but my favorite one is I bow to the sweet lotus feet of the one and only supreme reality.
Yes.
So only God is real, everything else is illusion. And that's what this means.
Yeah,
Same thing.
it's the same exact thing. And this whole process too of doing the movement, the zikr is really the spoken word, the state that you get into as you recite the words, the phrase. The movement is called fikr. So when you do zikr with the movement, that's known as fikr. And doing that movement again, it's what we do. Sufism, it's about polishing the mirror of the heart. So we see the heart as a mirror, and we see that every time we get an impression from something, it's like it's something that clogs up the mirror. We're not seeing the real impression in the mirror because there's all this other stuff in it that we've allowed, and then it gets dusty and it gets a little rusty, and we have to go get the rag out and clear the dust off. So through all these practices, we're cleaning the dust off the mirror so that we can see the reality reflected in it.
And zikr
the true
means to
reality.
remember
Yeah,
who we really
to
are.
remember the real reflection, the real that we're trying to reflect.
Or remember God.
Yeah. And so that process of the fikr, the movement, is that polishing of the mirror. It's like wiping away the dust from the mirror. So yeah, we could do that for a few minutes, and then we'll do a little closing prayer.
But please show us again the movement of the head.
Yeah, the movement of the head, it basically you sit up straight and you move from just a slight movement of the head across the left shoulder, around the front of the body, to the right shoulder and up. So it's like La ilaha illallah. And yeah, when you do the illallahu, it's real pronounced. It's a real piercing illallahu. And first Sufi group I went to, we did zikr, and I took my wife to, and we both came out of there, and we were just kind of like, what was that weirdness that we just did? Because it is very different. It's you know, if you're not into Eastern stuff, it's like, what is this stuff? But you'll get into a rhythm, and once you do it for, you know, if we do it for 5 minutes, you'll just be like, wow, it's really intoxicating. So yeah, do a little zikr. So the phrase again is La ilaha illallah, which again means there is no God but God. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha Recite the phrase a few times silently within as well. Focus on that heart center and just recite that phrase. La ilaha illallah. Silently loud. Brief, as we transition into our musical segment, we can do a brief singing version of the zikr, which is an original melody that Hazrat Inayat Khan did. This was his singing zikr, which the melody is based off of the Indian raga Bhairavi. Rag Bhairavi is, I think he chose this because it's, with raga, each raga in the Indian music system is written for a particular time of day. So you would, if you sang a morning raga at night, you'd just be all out of whack. You'd probably never go to sleep, that kind of thing, because it's the morning raga is to invigorate, awaken, and open you for the day. And Bhairavi was one that you could really do at any time of day. It was really just kind of like a scale that we would sing any time of day. And it was really based off of Bhairavi, and it was La ilaha illallah. And originally he had done La ilaha illallah. It's a real subtle change, but there was a lot of half tones, semitones in Indian music, and he did a real semitone note on the third note up, and Western audiences just couldn't catch it, so he changed it to whatever was more Westernized. Should be a tone. Now this is the E, so this is solar plexus. So we kind of focus on the solar plexus. Doing that chakra practice, that practice as well. So we do a singing version. Drummers in the house. thou who art the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly cometh from within. Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy great goodness, teach us thy loving forgiveness, raise us above the distinctions and differences which divide us. Send us the peace of thy divine Spirit, and unite us all in thy perfect being. Amen.
Amen.
So we have more food, if anyone would like more food. We have some tea, and we have a plethora of instruments. If anyone wants to break out into song or try out some different singing bowls or tuning forks, please make yourselves at home. Any thoughts or feelings that anybody wants to share about any of the practices or anything? I'm wide open to discuss.
It's really
Thank you
wonderful.
very
Thank you for
much.
hosting.
Oh, you're very welcome. I
Wonderful.
appreciate you all
Thank
coming.
you.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go just have a long journey from
Understand,
back home,
yeah.
but thank you so much.
Oh, you're very
for
welcome.
that way.
Yeah. And I will definitely be at a.
Please, yes, we'll invite you.
Yes.
And do you have your email on the?
I do, but I'll give you my
Okay,
contact
that'd be
info
great.
and everything
And
as
I'd
well.
like to hear more about your